brother.
We got ourselves some. It's an acquired taste.
It is.
Um, Ladies and gentlemen, this is my smooth and sultry voice. My next guest on episode 5 of Surreal Melbourne is none other than the homie Matt, who is a DJ, producer, event organizer. For starters, he's a DJ who goes by the name of Azrin and a new techno project by the name of Xaphan. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, Xaphan.
Xaphan.
It's a weird one.
It's a weird one.
It looks better on paper than it sounds.
It's because the way you spell it is
Yeah.
with an X,
Yeah.
and any word that starts with an X is just
It's weird.
yeah, like
Yeah.
xenomorph.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted something at the other end of the spectrum. I've got Azrin starts with A. And I was like, I need something at the very end. Something with a Z. Couldn't find anything good with a Z. I went X. X is going to be rad.
Where's the actual word from? Is that just a made up word that you made? Like
No. Well, the whole Azrin story is basically, a fallen angel of sorts.
Okay.
And it's funny. Xaphan is also
a fallen
a
angel.
fallen angel.
Yeah.
That wasn't the intent. I wasn't looking for fallen angels. I'm not religious by any means.
Yeah. Is this in the Christian? Are we talking in the Christian context or just? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But basically, he was an angel that fell down, and then he was just caused a bit of havoc. He was on who he fans the flames of hell. That's his job. But the irony is that techno alias is more melodic techno.
Yeah.
It's don't get me wrong, it's deep.
It does have a dark and melancholic feel to it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's by no means dark.
Yeah.
So,
which is kind of Azrin is the sort of you've always dwelled on the darker realms. I mean, for starters, the project is signed to Zenon Records, which is the epitome of of the darker shades of psytrance.
Yep.
50 Shades of Psy.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. So first off, I mean, just being signed on that label is a pretty massive, I guess, achievement. You've been on the label for what? How many years now?
I don't even know.
5? Would you be saying 5, 6 years, or even longer?
Longer.
Yeah.
Yeah. But oldest blurs. But yeah, I'd say probably maybe 7, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Prior to that, you were on, was it Gyra Records or like?
Yeah. Gyra. Previous to that, just because I had a couple of releases on that, and then I just had a few other crew associations.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Zenon Records has obviously been around for a while, but so have you, and you've you go back with like guys like Sensient and Tetrameth and all those guys. Like, would you say that you came up with them sort of around the same time, or who came first in that equation? Because you've been in our scene in the festivals, psytrance scene for how many years, man? A long time.
Long time.
I consider you an OG.
I am an OG. Yeah, no, I wish I sort of came up with those guys. I sort of found them later on. I was a typical candy raver.
Yeah, trance, hard trance. Yeah,
I was hard trance. I came into the scene. I think I started DJing 2004, 2003, 2004, something like that.
Yeah.
So I was playing Base Station every weekend. Sometimes it was Gabba, kind of stuff. Sometimes it was psytrance. Like it ended up being psytrance every week, but it sort of started off, being a Gabba, hard style, hard trance, and then I just, woke up to myself and and evolved into psytrance, and it sort of led to, to Xenon eventually, but I think they came a little bit before me.
Yeah.
But I was lucky enough to get onto, the tail end of their success, and it suited me down to a T.
Yeah, of course. And like their sound is like evolved like from, it's still pretty underground, even though it's has had quite sort of commercial success, but still is in the, you know what I mean? Like the music hasn't sold, I don't want to say sold out, but it hasn't gone down a cheesy road,
No, it's been good. They've had like I think one of the greatest things I did was when Sensient moved to Germany. He got obviously a good taste for the techno side of things,
Mm.
and then started infusing, I guess the minimal progressive techno into Zenon as well, and
Yeah.
that's just opened up a whole new, you know,
Genre
hub.
and
Yeah,
plethora of artists. Yeah.
exactly. And there's just heaps of new artists popping in and out. Like
Mm-mm.
we obviously get all the releases well ahead of time,
Yeah.
and then one will pop into our OneDrive, and I'll go, "Hang on, never heard of this guy before." Listen, I'm like, "Oh, dope! This is like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
rad." Like
Fuck.
minimal techno. I'm like, "Yeah, this is good." And yeah, I'm constantly surprised by the amount of artists out there that I've never heard of
Mm-mm.
that just have an amazing sound.
Yeah.
And Tim finds them, which
Yeah.
is great.
That's crazy that you have this access to this database of literally a global, you know, I don't know, repository. I
Yeah.
don't know. One of them relates to shit, right?
It's not a suppository.
That's for sure. But yeah, you have
Yeah.
access to this insane database of artists, and man, that must feel like, does that take a lot of the work out of like sifting
Yeah.
through, finding new music, or do you find it like, now that you're a Xenon Records artist, I can only play Xenon sets. Is that a thing, or you just prefer to do that anyways?
It, it's an interesting question. It like I guess for starters, having this database, it's amazing. Because the whole Xenon catalog, it's booked up well in advance. Like this, if you've got a release on Xenon, it mightn't get released for another 6 months because there's so many others coming.
Mm-mm.
But we get them well ahead of time, so we can play them whenever we want. And people are like, "Oh, what is this fresh new tune?"
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's just unreal.
yeah.
The same side step to that, Merkaba Music did the same thing as well.
Mm.
So I have the same abilities with those guys, which is great.
Yeah.
But I guess with my sets, because I've been in the scene for so long, I've got friends everywhere from different labels, and they're just chucking me music all the time.
Yeah.
So my sets are traditionally going to be a mix of all the unreleased stuff from my friends around the world. But if it's, let's say it's a Radio Azora set, for example, I've done a few of those for Xenon now. They'll be 100% Xenon.
Yeah.
And that's because it's like a Zenon Records
Showcase. Yeah.
So
yeah.
I'll do nothing but Xenon for that.
Mm.
Yeah. Likewise with the Merkaba stuff. I've done a Merkaba Radio Azora as well. Same thing.
Yeah.
100%.
It's pretty cool that, you're signed to these megalithic labels. I mean, like, Xenon is, probably on par now with, say, like Iboga Records, which is the sort of other side of the spectrum where it's a bit lighter, but even their direction in music is still, the Iboga tech side is, for me, I'm loving everything that's coming in that. It's that perfect blend of, progressive house, techno, and psy sort of all melded into, this, bush dance floor genre. And they're both, Merkaba music also has its roots in Australia, even though it's based in the States now. It's Yegon, who's Merkaba / Kalia Scintilla.
Yeah.
How did that happen, man? I mean, obviously, I know there's the friendship there.
Yeah, it's it sort of just came about. Like I've been lucky enough at Rainbow Serpent that I can play two sets. I've done that the last 6 years or something. There, I've played two sets, and one doing dark prog or psytrance, and the other one just doing complete chill. And because I was doing a lot of Merkaba sounding stuff, I'd be chatting to Yegon, and I'm like, dude, do you just want me to rep you? And this all happened after I played after him at the last the last Rainbow, like a year and a half ago or whatever. And he was just like, dude, this is perfect. This is exactly what we need. And I was like, yeah, this is rad. This works for me.
Yeah.
And it was just it came completely organically, just out of pure just conversation. And it was just the perfect fit. For both of us.
For to be signed to like labels with that caliber, is there a sort of expectation that they had to be like, okay, cool, you're a label DJ now, or no, like as a label DJ, you have to fill a certain requirement? Because I've been a label DJ for different things, and there's the focus is always on the producer and never like, hey, label DJ, like we want you to fill in some deadlines. I would have preferred if it was like that, because then I would have never, for myself, like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I'm not motivated to do much. But one of the things I like about you is like you don't stop. You're just constantly, you're making mixes, you're representing, you do the work. Is that something that they, have had to sort of like set up like expectations, or no, that's just your work ethic and drive, which is phenomenal, by the way.
Thank you. No, for me, like it's I guess it's one of the selling points for me. I'm like, okay, here you go. Like I'll be your label DJ. I'll represent, but at the same time, I'm gonna do more.
Yeah.
I'm gonna share, or I'm gonna promote for you. Whenever you've got artists that want to come to Australia, I'll look after them.
Yeah.
I'll throw gigs for them specifically.
Yeah.
Or I'll make sure they get tours all around Australia, and that's what I do. And that was sort of part of the deal. I sort of said, to Sensian and Jaeger, and I'm like, all right, this is how it works. Joe Blow is coming from
Croatia,
or whatever. I'll sort him out. He'll stay with our crew. We'll get him a gig in each state. We'll make sure he gets looked after. If there's even radio spots, we'll give him that. Like when Chromagon was down here last time, we got him a spot on the radio.
Yeah.
Things like that. We look after them. We make sure that the tour isn't just coming to play a festival.
Yeah.
It's here to spend time with the boys.
Yeah.
Going out for dinner, getting smashed with the boys, writing tunes in someone's lounge room.
Yeah.
Being on the radio. It's a whole package.
Yeah.
And that's what I sort of offered them. I said, this is how it works now.
Yeah.
I'm your go-to guy.
Yeah.
In Australia now. Whenever they're coming down here, I'll sort them out.
Yeah. And that's great, because like for you as well, there's, you are putting, first off, your money, your, contacts, your reputation, but also you're taking risk basically just doing it. But also in return, you're getting these connections overseas that are, not that, you're doing it so that you can like perform overseas, but they do open up doors for you. And
it does.
And that's, again, one of the things, like my observation of like, in DJing, I always like, I've been asked before, it's like, oh, what does it take to get to that level? But I'm like, it's not just recording mixes, isn't it?
No, it's definitely not. And it's good. Like the families I've developed, through Zenon, like through the artists and everything, they're some of my bestest friends now.
Yeah.
They mightn't be in Melbourne that I can go and hang out with, but we communicate weekly.
Yeah.
And it's like there's so many good friends that come out of it. And it all just stems from, you look after them and they go, oh, that's cool. And then you hang out with them and then you develop a rapport. And then the same thing, you go over to their country and go, hey, I'm coming to Europe,
Yeah.
hook me up. And then you hang with them and then you meet new people and it just stems and it keeps going further and further and further.
Their family becomes your family then.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it just one thing leads to another. Before you know it, you're having dinner with, someone who's from some other record label who's like, do you want to put a track on my, on my next VA or something?
Yeah.
And
I was like, I like you.
and it's great. I love it.
So how many countries now has that sort of, you've been everywhere. We're talking about Croatia.
I've been everywhere, man.
Yeah, you've been in a bunch of countries, man. You got India?
Yeah, I actually worked it out the other day because I was redoing my bio for some techno labels I'm reaching out to. I've played in 17 countries.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's, don't make me list them because I'll forget half of them.
Yeah.
But no, I've played in 17 countries, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Which
some are small, some are large.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Which of those countries would you say were the largest gigs? Like sort of milestone gigs?
Oh, it's a hard one. Australia, I've had some pretty big ones here, of course. But over in the likes of, I've played over in Israel a few times. Love it. The people are just amazing. The gigs, sometimes they're big, sometimes they're small.
Yeah.
That doesn't matter. It's just an amazing time. I've played some big gigs in over in Germany. Played Antares Festival last year, which was really good. Johannes really looked after us there and got to share the stage with my brother Apogeo and everything else.
Legend of a dude, yeah.
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 But yeah, yeah.
There's a lot.
There's a
a
lot.
lot of memorable moments.
Yeah,
you know?
there is. It's some are clubs, some are some of the most memorable moments have just been in
The living
tiny little ones.
Yeah,
Like there'll be a gig that got shut down, or a gig that is that came out of because of a shutdown. So they threw a little side gig here with 100 people.
Yeah.
And that is like one of the best ones, just because everyone's so close.
Yeah.
It's funny, right? Like I'll play at Rainbow Serpent on on a Friday night on the market stage to 10,000 people. You'll see everyone there, but you don't really connect because it's just a massive crowd. And then you get to a small gig where there's 300 people, and you're pretty much going to say hi to every one of them afterwards.
Yeah.
And you can't do that on the bigger stage.
Yeah.
So it's a strange feeling.
Yeah. And then there's this like the stack of speakers that are in front of you that create this so much distance. Has that ever got like, it's so strange for me. I can't connect with the crowd as much as, like you said, like say playing a gig at Rubik's or something,
Yeah, no, 100%. Like, where was it? In Rainbow a couple of years ago, when I was playing on the Friday night, I just got out and I was just doing a full Rob Zombie to a Rob Zombie remix, and I was just like out in front of the speakers, but there was just so much smoke that I couldn't see them, they couldn't see me, and I was like, I feel so disconnected right now.
Yeah. This should be one of my milestones.
This is my moment.
This is my moment.
Yeah. But it was just
I can't see anyone.
Yeah, but I'm still so far away from you. I can't touch you. Yeah.
So I mean, man, you've been involved in a lot of productions. You've worked at Rainbow, you've worked at Earthcore, Maitreya. I'm pretty sure Maitreya as well.
I've played at Maitreya, haven't worked for them, but I've played at Maitreya.
Yeah.
So
I want to know about this. Like, obviously we've just talked about your, being a DJ and being also a booker and a promoter, and facilitating this experience for other producers and DJs that come from Xenon overseas and whatnot. But I mean, before that, you would have had to have like, I guess like the sort of the background experience. It would have had to start somewhere, right? Where was that? From going from playing base station trance clubs, to that. Like, where was this? How did this like kind of like evolve?
There's a funny one, right? Like it all happened. I was just a candy raver, not DJing anywhere. And then my mate, he bought some turntables, and then I was like, cool, I'll buy some psytrance on vinyl, and you can just play it for me. And he's like, nah, dude, you got to learn how to do it yourself.
Yeah.
And and then we mucked around at his house. I learned how to do it, and then I went to base station. And then, that was a good platform. That was great, but it wasn't what I wanted in the long run. My sound evolved. And then I was really lucky that Ben Evans, good fella Ben, he, I gave him one of my mixes, and his interview crew they loved it, and they said, we want you to play for us. That was more prog tech kind of stuff at the time.
Yeah.
And they loved that. And then, funnily enough, that is what probably led into everything else going from there. I don't know, like when I was, I don't know, even back at the start, I was throwing parties back in Ballarat.
Before you became a DJ, or just post?
About the same time.
Yeah.
So I was throwing parties in Ballarat because the party scene had kind of died there.
Yeah.
And then we started throwing parties in like this club. We'd fill it out, 500 people or whatever. It was great.
And were the people just from Ballarat? Like that was just
pretty much, but because I had some connections from Melbourne, like just from clubs that I've been to, and like JFX, Nicky Sig, and Ben Evans and all that kind of stuff. I'd bring them down to Ballarat.
Yeah.
And then people would love it. They're like, oh, I'm getting Ballarat. I'm getting Melbourne DJs to play in Ballarat. And then we did that for a few years, and then I don't know, the scene in Ballarat kind of kicked us out just because it was really strict.
Yeah.
And then I moved to Melbourne and had to sort of start again, but it was really good because I had connections.
Yeah.
And then those connections then helped infuse my way into the festivals, where I'd be working behind the scenes, being a stage manager.
Yeah.
Like I was a stage manager for Earthcore for years. So things like that.
Mm.
And then before you know it, you know everyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then everyone knows your sound. And then it just happens.
Yeah. What year, sort of, what timeline was this, like around what year, sort of 2000, again, this is 2010, 2008?
No, probably earlier than that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, I couldn't even tell you now how long I did the Ballarat thing for, but I think that started in like 2004 or something like that.
Yeah.
That was for a few years. And then when I came to Melbourne, I did Unstable.
Mm-hmm. I'm repping the shirt, everybody.
Repping the shirt.
I had to, my man gave me this gift last time he was here. Sick logo, Unstable Sounds.
Yeah. Cheers. Like that T-shirt's getting around. Like I love, like I've given it out to a lot of the internationals to come play for us, and then I'll see photos online, of them on their Instagrams wearing the T-shirt, and I'm like, hell yeah,
fuck yeah,
yeah. But we did Unstable for 8 years every month.
Yeah,
for 8 years.
Which was, what sort of genre did you guys play?
A mix. Like it was funny because it was at Loop Bar, and I chose Loop Bar because it was a very good platform for art and sound.
Mm.
It had a huge background, which would enable us to have a lot of good visuals and showcase VJs that hadn't had an opportunity before.
Yeah.
So we'd do that, and then we'd start off with techno. It'd move into psytrance, chuck in D&B on occasion. We even had some chip tunes in there at one point.
Chip tunes?
Yeah, we had Citrix. Big ups to Chris.
Mm-hmm.
We had his crew in there, and that was one of our fullest crowds.
Yeah, I've never actually heard of that. Chip tunes.
Look it up.
Is it a label or is it is it genre?
It's a genre.
Yeah.
It's made of. It's where you get like old computers, like old Ataris and Amigas.
Computer chip tunes. Yeah.
Yep. And then you sort of back hack them, and you can sort of create a DAW out of this old system that's from the 70s or 80s.
Yeah.
And then make tunes out of it.
Yeah.
It's huge over in like around the world.
Is it still going?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
There was actually a gig last weekend.
Really?
Yeah, like an online streaming gig.
So when they're performing, what are they using? Are they actually just still using like traditional DJ gear, or now they're actually using all these like hacked floppy disks?
Yeah, well, I'll use my boy Citrix for an example. He'll come in with 2 Amiga Ataris, like the big system.
Yeah,
and he'll have them all set up with like a huge monitor, and he'll be like playing it as he's going. And he even created what he called a guitari. So it's like it's an Atari and a guitar. That's one big huge system with some guitar pedals on it to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, look it up after we're done here. I'll send you some links.
Yeah, I mean, man, I'd love to. We'll see if we can find something like that. And
it's super creative.
Yeah.
And that's what was good about Unstable. When I wanted to do a gig there, they said, "Well, we're already full. There's no spots for you." I said, "Give me the one weekend that you can't sell out ever." And they gave me like the weekend after New Year's. And I went, okay, I know this is going to be hard.
Mm-hmm.
And our first gig, we filled the place.
Wow.
And they went, okay, we'll make room for you. And they kicked someone else out. And then we did it every month. And then it got bigger and bigger and bigger. Like I was bringing acts down from overseas. I was bringing, interstate people down.
Mm-hmm.
And the good thing is I'd make sure it was always free. I never, ever put a door tax on there.
Yeah.
The club would give me $50 an hour. I'd just fit the rest because I wanted to showcase certain artists.
Yeah.
And because of that, it'd just fill up.
Mm.
Like we had one good example. We had Dark Nebula. We brought him down, and then
trance producer from Sydney, right? South
yeah.
Wales.
Yeah. And amazing night, pouring rain. Mm-hmm. There was like about 300 people lined up outside in the rain, just wanting to get in.
Yeah, and for people who don't know this, Loop Bar is tiny.
It's so tiny. I think it was licensed for about 120, but we'd squeeze
200,
300.
300.
Yeah.
It's like the tiny club that could.
Exactly.
Lots of good memories there.
Yeah.
How did you sort of work out that deal in terms of like you were getting paid $50 an hour? Because this is like for just promoters out there, you know, this is something I've you know, one of the reasons why I want to kind of quiz you here because you've got a wealth of knowledge on, you know, I don't know if the word is the administrative side of running an event with all the sort of costings and stuff. So you were getting sort of $50 an hour. The bar was obviously paying for the artists. Is that how did that work out?
Yeah, they just say here's your budget. You know, your budget tonight. It's let's say $350. You know,
Is that
plus,
really what they used to tell you? Was that
yeah,
the budget?
and plus $100 to the DJ or $150 to the DJ. Sorry, the VJ.
Mm.
And that's all it was. And then I'd just go, okay, I could have one artist for the whole night and give them everything.
Yeah.
You know, or I could just do 6 artists and tell them all they're getting $50 each.
Yeah.
Or if I was bringing artists down that I knew were worth more than that, I'd just pay for it myself.
Yeah.
And that's what happened in the end. Like probably for the last half of it, I was paying 3 times whatever I was being given myself.
Yeah.
But that's because I wanted to.
Yeah.
It didn't bother me. I had a good day job that helped me pay for it.
Yeah.
So it was no biggie.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was also a good platform for me.
Yeah.
You know, so
it earned you the sort of reputation and built you a sort of crowd base and
yeah, no, definitely. You know, like I was able to bring in people from other crews, from other festivals, and it just made a good connection. It created relationships, and those relationships helped me get to where I am now.
Yeah.
So yeah, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours.
It is a bit of the way it goes here, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, and everywhere in the world.
Yeah. But it's
not a bad thing.
It only works if you can relate to them, though. Like, you know, it's not just a matter of this is Joe Blow from Festival X. We're going to bring him down and he's going to play for me and therefore we're friends. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
You've got to have that connection, you know, and you've got to be able to be on the same level. Otherwise, it's just completely fake. And I've got no time for fake people in my life.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, some of these relationships have been really fruitful, and that's because of the relationships you've developed through it.
Yeah,
and the closeness. Others have just been basic. They've just been a name on the flyer. But at the same time, you've given them opportunities, you know, and so on.
Yeah. It's that's what kind of like you know, when I was talking earlier about people asking me, oh, how do I do this? How do I do that? I'm like, look at what that guy's doing. Do what he's doing. You know, be a mover and a shaker kind of thing.
You've done some pretty good events yourself, man. You know, so it's not a matter of, you know, you're no newbie either. You know, it's, you know, some of the gigs that you've done have been amazing.
Thank you, my friend.
Yeah.
Some how I started was like kind of like out of necessity. I you know, I came here in 2008, right? And from like 2008 to 2010 or 2011, like let's say 2 to 3 years, man, I was trying. The only gigs I could get were like, you know, hand me down gigs from RMIT were like, oh yeah, I was in foundation studies, you know, and most of the people there like didn't speak English and they were there to learn English, and I was like, I had perfect English, and I was like, well, whatever, you know, we'll hire a hall, and RMIT was, you know, paying for it, but eventually it was like a gig in room 680 that was like, you know, cool trance event, but I'm playing in the side room, and then it was Ash, you know, remember Sun Tribe Ash?
Yeah.
You know, he put me into Peter Sawara from Earthcore, and then this and that, and you know, Spiro helped a lot, and the Earthcore crew helped me sort of get gigs. But yeah, I mean, man, you've sort of talking about that, man. You've been around a lot of the sort of drama, and you know, over the years, like crazy shit. I mean, what was it like, sort of being an outsider? Because you're fairly, I guess, neutral is the way to say, you know. And most people are, but there was a lot of like drama in the background.
Yeah, there's always politics, you know, between events and festivals and everything else. You know, I've pulled promoters, you know, off artists that have been in punch-ons and things like that. But it's, you know, it is what it is.
It is what it is.
You know,
you've managed to navigate that pretty well, and be more of a conduit to support people instead of like you know, build bridges, not break. You know, I've seen a lot of bridges burnt.
Oh man, it's so many. Yeah, it's hard. You don't know what's born this issue. It could have just been someone clashed with someone else's event and then they didn't want, no one wanted to change, or it could have been something different. Could have been a non-payment issue, or it could have been something totally different.
Yeah.
But I don't know. The way I look at it, you just got to treat music as a hobby, and not take it too personally,
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, it's their life. And they take it personally for a reason, because it's their own income, or it's their only income, or something else. And
the only thing that gives them purpose or something like
yeah,
that.
yeah. So like, it's I don't know. You got to draw the line somewhere. It's if this isn't life threatening, then it's not worth worrying about.
Yeah. Yeah. You've you said before you had your day job and that sort of helped, and that's sort of kind of like another dichotomy that you've always had. You've had like a sort of consistent income, which has allowed you to separate that hobby. Would you have ever kind of just said, no, you know what, I'm going to do this full time, or you just don't think it's health wise sustainable? Or, you know what I mean?
Don't get me wrong. I'd love to. Like I'll spend say 50 hours a week doing my day job, and then I'll spend another 50 hours a week, doing music stuff after work. Whether it's organizing promotions or whatever.
Yeah,
it'd be great just to have one outlet, but there's just no money in it.
Yeah,
like unless I was doing much larger events, which to be honest, I don't want to do.
Yeah,
I'm happy our events, go up to say, let's say 1,500 people. That's a good size for me. I like that.
Yeah, it's a manageable size.
Yeah, I don't want to go to 10,000.
Mm-mm.
I don't want to have that extra risk.
Yeah, because then you do have to quit your day job to manage the,
Yeah, well, with our last festival, we had 100 staff. And it's a lot.
Yeah,
it's a lot of staff to manage. And it was, I don't know, if you go to these massive events, like a big festival, you're gonna have to have 1,000 staff. And it's just like, well,
then you have to have managers in place, and you got to vet the right managers, and the accounting paper trail gets bigger, and that's isn't that probably one of the hardest things to manage, is it?
Yeah, well, it's different for me, because like my day job is like I'm a senior manager for an engineering and construction firm. In that, my day job is project management. So like that's all I'm doing. Like I've studied, I've got accreditation certificates. Like project management, I know it inside out.
Yeah.
So that what I do in my day job is easily transferable to the music scene that I'm doing, and that's what works.
Yeah.
But still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a partial reason why you have a bit of well, not a bit, but a lot more sort of success than other promoters. Not that it's a competition, but the fact that you have these extra skill sets that pretty much go hand in hand. Like if you're a project manager, that's essentially what an event manager is. Really, you're just working on a project, and it's got the same cogs and wheels and
yeah. That's it. Like it utilizes the same tools. You're just replacing. Like for my work, I'm managing. I don't know. I think we worked it out the other day. It was close on 1,800 contractors. Over about, I think it was over about 50 different companies. So that's my day job. And then I go to this other music thing. I'm using the same tools, but I'm just replacing contractor with artist.
Yeah.
Or instead of using, I don't know, a civil contractor for this thing, I'm using my bin hire place, or the toilet hire place.
Yeah.
So it's the same tools.
Yeah.
I can utilize the same databases and methodologies to just to record it all. So it's good.
And you can see that in the way your events run. They're pretty well, like well-oiled. What do they call that expression? Well-oiled.
Well-oiled machine.
Well-oiled machine. Yeah.
Well, I can't say that's all me though. Like that, my partner Loki, Xaphan, we work really well together. And we've just got the right people. Every year we put on more staff. We put on the managers for certain areas. We get different contacts, and just working together, we have, up and prior to COVID, we'd have very regular meetings just on what the future looks like, how we're going to manage it, and it's just, it's a lot of work.
Yeah,
but it works. It enables us for when the event happens, you look at it and go, okay, that was done. What could we have done better?
Yeah.
And then every year you work on those things,
Mm.
you know. And this last one was just everything went flawlessly,
Yeah. Yeah. I can.
and
Yeah.
it was great. And
I
that was,
concur.
and that's because we'd learned from the previous years. You know, like, don't get me wrong, the other years went great.
Yeah.
But there's little things that we identified that we could have done better to make our jobs a little less, you know, hectic.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it just, and you just keep building on that.
Yeah. And then I guess like just for the record, for people that don't know, Red Forest Productions is the name of the company, and the event you're talking about is Where the Wild Things Are.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's all right, man. You know, and that's at series. And you've got what, like a very small capacity for a place that can fit a lot more.
Yeah. Well, I guess the way it's sort of, we'll treat that question as two different things. But, Red Forest was born basically, Loki Farron, he had his Universal Tribe events. I had my Unstable Sounds events. We found some commonality between them, and we were close friends, and we just decided, let's just merge these things together. We created the company Red Forest, and that platform is what enables us to do the larger events, and that just worked out really well. And mind blank. What was the rest of the question?
Well, it was more so, you know, we're just stating like, you know, Red Forest. I mean, if you were to treat it as a question, it was more of a statement.
But,
yeah. But if we were, it's good. I wanted to go into it. If you were to treat it as a question, it's like, you know, how did the whole Red Forest thing come about, and how did that lead to, you know, Where the Wild Things Are? So, you know, Unstable Universe was the collaboration.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Unstable Universe is sort of, that was our first one, you know, and that worked out really well.
Yeah.
And then we did a few other small ones, but then we decided we just wanted to do, you know, probably 2 events a year, you know, like 2 larger events. So that'd be, say, Where the Wild Things Are Festival at Series. And then the other one was, let's do another one in winter, which would be Unstable Universe, or the likes of.
Yeah.
Plus, you know, obviously we'll do after parties and pre-parties just to around these, but they're obviously smaller.
Yeah. And then you do that because you sort of have to build up this kitty of money, I guess. Is it a partial reason, kitty of money, and also to promote to this bigger thing? I mean, it's the best strategy, you know.
It's goes both ways. It's to try and develop, what's the word? Momentum.
Yeah.
You know, like, you obviously, if you're doing an annual event, you've got to keep it in everyone's mind for a whole year before it happens. That's hard. You can't just keep sending messages every week going, don't forget about us.
Don't forget about us. Because then it gets annoying.
It does. You can't spam everyone. So you do little things like launch parties and bits and pieces, and it just keeps things going. And it also enables, you know, you can do combo deals. You go, well, here's a ticket. You can go to the launch party, after party, and the festival party.
Yeah.
You know, things like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's an element of entrepreneurship, I guess, in a way that you've sort of fused into this project management and event management kind of.
Yeah, you kind of have to. Funnily enough, our launch parties have never really given us much money. Unfortunately, you know, like, we still get a decent number to the events.
Yeah.
But we put, you know, good money into the acts and the infrastructure. So it's not really, you know, anything to give us money, but it gives everyone, you know, a hint of what's to come for the festival. They go, okay,
yeah,
you know, this is good. This is coming. It's only a few months away. And it's just the taste.
Yeah. And most people take the, you know, they take the bait. I don't want to say take the bait, but yeah. But because you're offering, again, like, one thing that like really distinguishes, I guess, your events is, first off, the caliber of artists you're bringing. It's like, they're not necessarily huge headline acts overseas. You know, those like big acts. They're like, you know, good in the middle, but good music. Like, you know, all the music's phenomenal, right?
Thank you.
You know what I'm trying to say here? It's like, you know, you're representing. This goes back to what you were saying earlier about bringing the artists, say, from Zenon Records. You're representing people that are sort of I guess in the middle of their journey a lot, and like that's one thing you do you both Loki and you know you're really supporting newcomers and people in the middle of the journey, but still pay respects to sort of the OGs.
Yeah, yeah, you've got to. And I think with our festivals, it's always been to give people a platform to play on that they wouldn't have normally had. So you're going to get your locals that we're always going to put them on there and go, okay. Especially like we always make sure we put on someone from the UT tribe,
Universal Tribe Records.
Yeah, we go, okay, we need to make sure we've got a couple of you guys on there.
Yeah.
This is going to give you another platform that you're playing with internationals. Things like that.
People take you more seriously.
Yeah,
People start more so recognize you.
That's it. It's recognition, and it's the same thing with all the Zenon guys. Like every year, I'm like, okay, who's coming to Australia? And everyone goes, we're coming to Australia. This is our tour.
Yeah,
and half of it happens, and then you go, okay, you're coming here. We'll give you all these gigs, and it gives them a really good platform to play on. And then we'll usually have one big headliner, whether it's Desert Dwellers or Kalia Scintilla or, Kaya Project, Birds of Paradise, things like that. So we'll get these ones that are very, very niche, but
have a huge, like almost cult-like following, you know?
And that's it. Like, I guess the ethos of Where the Wild Things Are festival is that chill stage, let's say at Rainbow kind of thing. It's great, it has great acts and all the rest, but why not have a whole festival around that? Where the main stage is the chill stage.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So you get that kind of feeling. It's a day party. You're going to have mid-tempo, down-tempo tunes as the showcase.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you'll have the other stages, which are going to just be
banging,
banging techno or psytrance or
drum and bass. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But the showcase is the more down-tempo, chill stuff where people are just going to come together and just groove. And that's the main thing, and that's what's really worked for us. And I love it. I love being able to go to the main stage and just watch everyone being all liquidy and just like sloshing about. I love it.
Yeah,
that's good.
Gyrating.
That's it.
It's funny, isn't it, when you go to some of these stages and the different kinds of music, like completely different kind of dancing. I always like as a DJ, it's like cool. The dynamic of the dance floor is completely different from every single style.
Yeah.
The thing that I love about it is that this emphasis on down tempo, mid tempo, because we both play like very similar genres, and I've listened to this Xaphan project and I'm just like, this dude's playing like the music that I would play, but again, it's why I do enjoy like when you play, because it's like I'm pretty picky about the different subgenres and styles. I'm like, when you've heard it all, you just want to listen to the thing that you like that will get you moving. And I'm like, okay, I know he's going to play that set,
Yeah. Well, and it goes both ways, like there's a reason you've been on the lineup a couple of times, and that's because, you've got the same taste, the same abilities and skills. It's, I've really enjoyed having you up there.
Yeah.
Like
back to back. When's it going to happen, man?
Back to back. Yeah. Maybe one day.
COVID times, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Like the first year we had you up, it was great. We had you up there. We had an assortment of people with you.
Yeah.
It was great.
Liquid.
Yeah.
That's actually, one thing that I guess that I love about Where the Wild Things Are is the this diversification of genres, right? Which means when you diversify genres in an event, right, you're also bringing in people from different scenes.
Yeah.
And, you've got techno crews and this. And I think for both of us, like, we can say that, like, there's this collaboration in Melbourne, which, I don't know, don't you love this? The fact that, like, the techno scene is friends with the drum and bass scene. Like, we're all friends with each other, and there's this mutual respect, but everyone's doing their own thing. You've been here for a while, and you've sort of seen it, I guess, through this like 2004, 4 to 2020. I mean, was Melbourne always like that, or is this like as a result of bush doof culture or like festival culture?
I think the bush doof culture has helped.
Mm.
by all means. You know, like going back, let's say to mid 2000s, the genres were more separated.
Mm.
You know, like techno guys did their techno thing,
Yeah.
psytrance did their psytrance thing, and they didn't really like each other as much.
And because the cultures were so different,
They
the
were.
clothing was,
Yeah, yeah, and it wasn't because they didn't like each other. It was just because they had
they didn't like the music. They
it was
didn't.
it's just less interaction and everything else. And I think it's just gradually evolved.
Mm.
And you know, that's one of the things I've really enjoyed doing with our party is getting people from straight up techno scene
Mm.
and bring them to our events where they can go, okay, I can play my straight up techno here,
Yeah.
but then I can go and learn about other stuff on the other stages.
Mm.
And then people go, I like this artist. Where do I find that artist? And they'll go, he's from this ex techno crew. Then they'll go suss out that crew,
Mm. Mm. Mm.
you know, and vice versa. Like people that are following that ex techno act, they're going to go, he's playing at this festival where the wild things are. What's that? What's that all about? And it's just
Mm.
sharing the love.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really good. Yeah.
Yeah. It seems like we've moved a lot closer towards each other and
100%.
collaborate with each other instead of just going,
Yeah.
no, this is us and that's you, and you don't fuck with me and I'll fuck with you.
Yeah.
Now it's like, no, we all fuck with each other. You know what I mean? In a good
It's
way.
family. It's family, and it comes down to just connections, you know, and
Mhm.
those connections, you know, they create really good relationships. And then, yeah, I love it.
Mhm.
And I love that for our parties, I can go, Lucy and I will sit there and go, okay, who do we want on? Do we want a drum and bass stage?
Mm.
Do we want, a glitch stage? Do we want a straight up techno stage? And it's good because we know everyone in all these different scenes and we've all worked together before.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we can just make it happen.
Mm.
I love it. It's good.
Nice.
Yeah.
One of the things that, like, the partnership with you and Loki, Loki Farron. I mean, man, this has been going on for what? How many years now?
Don't even know.
It's been going on for
It's a while.
a while, and
We've done what 3 Where the Wild Things are, and we've done a few events before that. So I don't know. Let's say 5 or 6 years, maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That, I mean, did that partnership, did it come with its sort of limitations, or you guys are just, you know what I mean? It just works. And how have you managed that partnership over this? 6 years is a long time to be working with someone, but you see a lot of partnerships, I guess, break down. And what is that dynamic like, and how do you guys make it work, or is it just works?
It just worked.
Yeah.
I can't even remember how it formed, to be honest.
Mm.
Like I think we just went to each other's events, and then we just became friends, and then it just I don't know. We just merged, and then it was just easier. And like he's good at some things, I'm better at other things, and we just combined. It just made the whole job easier because we're both sole traders in essentially, and we're doing everything ourselves.
Yeah.
Which takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
And then we're like, okay, well, this is essentially cutting our workload in half.
Yeah.
And we're mates, and we get along because we're bros.
Mm.
It'd be stupid not to do this.
Yeah.
And it just worked. We both had our own followings. So from over the years, they all came together and just made for one large kitty of, support.
Yeah.
And it just worked. But I think it just really comes down to, like, we've got a really solid friendship.
Yeah.
Outside of events, we're still talking to each other every day, kind of thing. And it's just a friendship that does music on the side.
Yeah.
And we've got the right systems in place. We use the right tools. We've got the right, systems and contacts. It's all relatively second nature now.
Yeah.
Still takes a while. But, but everything's
what is
nature.
exactly what the developing of?
Yeah, well, okay, like where the wild things are, it's not just fill out a spreadsheet and it's done. Like there's a good 6 months of work in that. Where you've got to be doing something every day.
Yeah.
Might only be small, but you're doing something every day for 6 months before that happens.
Yeah.
Whether it's organizing visas or artists or, infrastructure or promotion, and, you'll have staff and then the staff will drop out and then, all these there's so many different things. Plus tax. Tax is Like it's a proper company, so we've got all these tax issues
Yeah,
and
you've
all the
had to
West.
actually navigate a few of those, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's all of that. So
Mm.
there's always something going on.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Do you guys, the way you sort of split your workload, is it something that you kind of go, obviously you said earlier that you have your strengths
Mm.
and he has his strengths, weaknesses, blah, blah,
Mhm.
blah. And is it like, okay, now that you're working on this area and you're working on that area, do you have to hold each other sort of accountable and see, do you have to check in quite often, or no, it's like complete autonomy over those sections?
It's we check in it anyway, but we don't need to.
Yeah.
Like we both have different things. Like I'm very large into the artist side of things, the artist management and artist services, connections,
Mm.
the graphic design and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's great at, social media and infrastructure, like organizing decor and everything else. Like we've got these different things, but we've learned other things, like he's really taking on a lot of, graphic design stuff now. He's doing a lot of the web design stuff,
Mm.
so it's all just, we just learn from each other,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and we even had a tool. You may have heard of it, may not have. It's called Trello.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah, it's a project management software. I've tried
exactly.
it, but I'm
Yeah.
terrible using adopting like
Yeah,
things
yeah.
like that. Yeah,
It's basically for everyone else. It's a glorified to do list,
yeah,
kind of thing. Then you can move tasks around.
mm,
So we use that.
yeah,
Like we'll have the festival all in this board, and then we'll just move and drag and drop.
yeah,
Okay, this is your list of things you have to do. This is mine, and then we'll just
yeah, yeah,
move
yeah.
it all about. And yeah,
Was that your project management background just
yes,
coming back into now we're
oh
gonna
yeah,
use this now?
yeah, totally.
Yeah, yeah. Prior to that, did Luke? It was just like an Excel, like because that's what I'm. I'm just like Excel's good enough for me.
Excel's got some good things to it.
Yeah,
Like
it definitely needs to be more like I don't know
yeah,
how to make it more like interactive when you can tick boxes. It's like
yeah.
that automatically can move to that section. But I guess you could maybe do something like that, but then it would,
There's so much you can do.
yeah,
Like
macros and stuff.
I do a lot of our ticketing, forecasting, and everything through these really complex dashboards I've created in
Mm.
in spreadsheets.
Yeah.
Where I can go, okay, this is our budget for the year. This is what all our acts are going to cost. This is what infrastructure costs. To do that, we need to have this amount of tickets in round one, this in round two, round three, and then you punch it all in, and it just automatically just goes bang, bang, bang. This is what it's going to cost you. This is how it works out.
Mm.
So things like that, it makes our job so much easier because we get the ability to see it straight up.
Yeah.
6 months ahead of time, we go, okay, this is what we need to strive for,
Mm.
and then we can, as tickets are selling throughout the whole year beforehand, we can go, okay, we're falling behind here.
Yeah.
We need to ramp up promotion. We need to do this. We need to maybe hold another event to get momentum happening again.
Yeah.
And we can see the trends. And that's just through automation that I've sort of done through spreadsheets.
Mm.
So,
And how have you
yeah,
dealt with like some of the sort of, you sometimes you do these interim events and you lose money sometimes for some of them, right?
totally.
Have you dealt with that loss? For me, by the way,
Mm.
not great. But only because I had like a
Yeah.
7-year run where I just made profit for 7 years, and
Mm.
then suddenly I tried to do something else, and then it was like I wasn't getting that number, and I feel like for me there was this I couldn't deal with my failures so much,
Yeah.
and it kind of gave up on it, and I was like I'm gonna just I had to back away from it. But you haven't. You guys just like keep going.
We've lost on events. Don't get me wrong.
Mm.
One of the ones that we got burnt on big time was, I think it was the second Where the Wild Things Are, our launch party. We spent big on the acts for the launch party. It was going to be a great night. And then we had a huge, crazy storm in Victoria. And they even put on the news, they said, Melbourne is flooding. Do not leave your house. So no one
Remember
came.
that. Yeah.
We lost thousands and thousands, but it just comes out of our kitty. Like every event we do, we don't treat, whatever we make from it as profit. It
Yeah.
just goes back into the kitty.
Yeah.
And that kitty, then you spend more on acts and
Mm.
things like that. And it's, every year things change.
Yeah.
It's not just inflation, but it's like,
The weather,
yeah, well, it's just little things like insurances get more expensive.
Yeah.
The cost from our last Weather Wild things cost us almost. Oh no, it was basically double what our first one cost,
Mm.
just because of everything started going up.
Yeah.
We'd called in all our mates' rates kind of requests, so having this kitty, it's not just a kitty of his cash we can use. It's just like it's needed because of we know every year things are going to go up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Do these because I know in the past we've talked about this how first off, oh yeah, the tax man's like, oh, you guys are making this much money, oh, you got to pay that much, and then you've got Aria, is it the art like, just it's almost like people see your success and then they go, now you got to get, it's like extortion, isn't it? Like you got to give me, you got to give me a cut of that now.
yeah, and that's what it was. Like I think the last time, sorry, not the last time before that, we had the guys going. We obviously had to register for APRA and all that kind of stuff. But then we asked all the artists. We went to the artists. Are any of you actually signed up to APRA?
APRA, sorry, not Aria. Yeah.
Are you getting any of the money that we're paying them? Because APRA and PPCA, they cost us a few grand each year. And then we asked the artists, do you actually see any of that? And they're all like, no. So we're like, oh, hang on. So we're paying the government
money for music,
for
your music,
yeah,
and you're not even getting a cut out of it,
yeah,
which you should be getting it for 100%.
Yeah, and it's just strange, things like that.
Yeah,
but it is what it is, and we've had to get extra insurances because of weather and all that kind of stuff. Fair, but it's usually a pretty hot time.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden you can get like a big downpour and then it just ruins everything.
Yeah. How do the insurances work? Is it against ticket loss or more so equipment?
It's more so against, essentially whatever our cost is, we can insure against that. We can't insure against profit that we would have made.
Yeah.
So, so we can say it cost us $100,000, for artists and infrastructure. And we can possibly get a portion of that back if it gets cancelled for, acts of God or something.
Yeah.
But that doesn't pay for the 6 months worth of work we've had to do to get to that point.
Yeah. It still does alleviate, I guess, the symptoms of loss.
Yeah, that's it. But at the same time, that costs us thousands each year as well.
Yeah,
and we haven't had to use it, which is good. But it's also money we're throwing away.
Yeah.
How
much does that sort of cost? Like, because what you're talking about is losses. You could be losing like 15 grand or something like that. But then you paying say 3 grand or something like that for the insurance.
Yeah, I think it's about that.
Yeah,
somewhere like that.
See, I didn't even knew something like that existed. I just like, how would that work?
It's all come about for various reasons, but there's some pretty strict clauses at series, which by rights they're there for a reason. It's there to protect nature and protect the actual area.
Yeah.
That if there's extreme weather, they can just cancel it in 24 hours notice.
Yeah.
So we just need to make sure that we're equipped in case that happens. Yeah.
Man, it's such a massive undertaking, isn't it? When you think of so many elements involved in the process.
All of a sudden, rain stops a year's worth of work. Hundreds of $100,000 worth of activity, and then bang, has to stop.
Nature always wins.
Yep, but that's it. That's series is a magical place.
Yeah.
And it takes things like that to make sure it stays that way.
Yeah.
If it's going to be a big mud bath that's going to ruin the gardens and everything else, we need to protect them against that.
Yeah, and people obviously, you got feet, lots of feet. They're trampling everywhere, and feet and mud don't go well together.
No. Yeah.
How hard do you think it is, like, to sort of, there's so much of this event planning and permitting process in place. Have you guys ever thought about, places that are even more public, or you've tried to get in, things like that, and it just hasn't, it's been because, you know what I mean? The red tape.
Are you referring to my party that failed a few years ago?
Maybe. I mean, one of the things I like to do in the shows is sure, I want people to talk about their own failures because
Mm.
first off, it's like, we're deciphering, hey, what did you learn?
Yeah.
But in sharing that, it's like it's such a wealth of
Yeah.
you know what I mean, of knowledge of like, okay, what can other people take from that?
Yeah. And that's it. We what he's referring to is a party I was going to have at a prison,
Yeah.
and and that was all good. The prison was really on board. They loved the idea. We were going to be donating money back to the prison, all sorts of things. We had huge lineup. We had Kelly Scintilla, Halquist, and an assortment of others. Like it was a huge lineup. It was
Mm-mm.
great. And then all of a sudden, the prison sort of changed hands. They didn't agree with our idea. And then they also highlighted that there was a few, I don't know, the place wasn't legally equipped to manage what we were doing, even though they'd sold it to us as it could.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then we went, okay, let's get some temporary permits. Let's do all this kind of stuff. And then it just fell to pieces.
Yeah,
And this all happened within 1 month of the event.
yeah.
So we'd done almost a whole year's worth of promotion. We'd sold out. Like we'd sold thousands of tickets. And
Mm-mm.
then all of a sudden we had nothing, and a party to throw a few weeks later.
Yeah,
And it was really unfortunate. I didn't have insurances for any of that for myself. I think I returned about, I don't know, 10 grand worth of tickets or something like that. I lost a lot of money in that myself.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's what you get. It's taught me that at the very start you need to ask the place that you're trying to hire out, are you equipped for this?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Or do I have to do all this now? Which is fine as long as you know up front.
Yeah.
Like I've got heaps of other venues that are really unique that I'm wanting to use.
Mm.
I've got a pretty good bank of unique places that haven't been used,
Yeah, yeah,
and I know I have to do everything, and I'm okay with that
yeah.
because I budget for that.
Yeah.
I know I have to get permits. I know I have to get, you know, extra toilets and security and fencing and all the rest.
Mm.
You've got to get the council on board. Um,
After a while, you
yeah.
sort of kind of have fixed, like you were saying, you have these tools, you've got
Mm.
these fixed, I guess, amounts that you're like, yep, that generally costs that much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Um, but there's I guess, like, props to you for just like, I know the losses that we're talking about are like, they're significant.
Mm.
Some people would break under that sort of pressure. It could, I mean, good that you have that sort of a good day job that I guess has supported you. And
Mm.
would you say that's like allowed you to sort of alleviate?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
it's a good thing for like other promoters out there. It's like what you do. I think is you've diversified your risk in a sense. Um, but still, I mean, man, props to you again for this like this drive for just like,
Cheers.
all right, you gotta. What's the next one? Where's the next thing?
Yeah.
Where's that come from? I mean,
Oh, this is another story that
yeah.
probably not a lot of people know. My my drive. Let's rewind the clock to 2002.
Mhm.
Living in Ballarat, working in Dalesford, doing real estate. Believe it or not,
How old were you then?
22.
Yeah, yeah. What were you? What is it like? An agent, basically? Or?
Yeah, short-term rentals, beauty packages, and all that kind of stuff.
Mm,
People from Melbourne and Sydney would go to Dalesford and they just want to get pampered for a week or whatever, and I'd
yeah,
just
hot springs, whatever.
I'd organise that for them. I did that for a while. Um, anyway,
Again, sorry, parallel to the artist services.
yeah, well, this was probably a little bit before that,
Yeah,
and that's what
before music, basically.
yeah, like obviously I was a candy raver and I was just a nut job, but at the same time I wasn't doing music. I was just enjoying it.
Yeah.
Um, but then I was in a crazy fast turboed car because I'm a big car nut.
Yeah, yeah. I want to go into. Good that you remind me now.
Yeah, so I was a bit of a car nut. I had a crazy turboed car,
Yeah.
and then unlucky for me, somewhere along the lines, I don't know how it happened. I smashed into a telephone pole on the way to work, which which is crazy. Like,
Fuck.
yeah, it put me in a coma for a month and a bit. Fractured skull, brain hemorrhage, had pneumonia when I was in a coma,
Wow.
burst eardrums, had to pull the car apart to get me out, airlifted to,
How fast were you going?
I don't know, I don't know, like there's a few weeks beforehand I don't remember, like my whole head, this is all blocked out because of obviously the trauma, because of the accident. Um, but yeah, it's my girlfriend at the time was going to join me. She was going to come to my work that day, and I just said, no, I don't. It's shit, but crap weather. Don't come. And then, yeah, she had a tingling that something was happening,
Mm-mm.
and then she drove to my work, and then she got there as I was putting me in the helicopter, and I'd already died once or twice at the scene, and they said, say your goodbyes to him now because
Fuck.
he's screwed. And yeah, and then my family and my girlfriend at the time, they all came down. They saw me every day. And then, yeah, they said if he does wake up out of a coma, he'll be a veggie.
Wow.
And then I woke up and I wasn't a veggie, but I couldn't talk and I couldn't walk. I was a bit screwed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Fucking hell.
and then they're like, okay, well, he's awake. That's great. Um, and then they're like,
So
okay.
sorry. How long did this coma go for again?
I was in a coma for, I think, just over a month.
Jesus.
Yeah. But yeah, that whole story of you see the light when you're in a coma and all that kind of stuff. It's that didn't happen.
Yeah.
That,
Well. Yeah. What happened? Like, do you remember
yeah,
anything?
I was imagine a nightmare, like a lucid dream / nightmare,
Yeah.
for a month, that you can't get out of. And my lucid / dream was I was in a hospital getting experimented on by some rogue nurses in the morgue part of the hospital. And then
Fuck.
I wake up in a hospital
And you thought this is
with tubes attached to me and all that kind of stuff. And then I got up to go to the toilet because I wake up and was like, I really need to piss. And then I fell to the ground and I couldn't walk. And then they were like, then I was like yelling out, why can't I walk? Rah, 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 rah.
yeah, super
Yeah.
disorientated and
And then I couldn't talk. So I was just, this is gibberish.
yeah,
And they're like, we can't understand you. I'm like, I can understand me.
yeah.
What's going on?
So you still had your thinking in that
I was no different than the way I am now, but I just had no motor skills.
yeah.
So that all happened. And then they were like, you're going to be in here for at least 3 years getting rehabbed to be able to walk, talk, be functional again. And I was like, no. No, I got too much stuff to do. And in the end, I was only in there for 6 months,
Wow.
staring at a white wall for 6 months. But in that time, that gave me nothing but time to search inside myself.
Mm.
Like it was very introspective 6 months of my life of what's going to change, what do I need to make better. I could have died and like proper died and stayed dead.
Yeah, yeah.
So what am I going to change? And this is what made it all happen. Basically, after that, after rehab and after all that business, I was like, okay, I need to travel more. I need to follow my passions and everything else. And that's where music came about.
Mm-mm.
So music was part of that. Travel was part of that. Merging all that. And I was like, my direction and drive was live every day like it's your last.
Yeah.
And I did that for years. And then I was just like not doing too much forward planning. But then I've sort of, matured a little bit more.
Yeah.
And went,
Yeah.
okay, you can't live every day like it's your last completely.
Yeah.
But at least notice if it starts going downhill again. If you're getting stuck in a routine or things start getting a bit monotonous, pay attention to that and make a change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, man.
So that's the answer.
That's the
Very
answer
long
to the
answer.
drive.
Very long answer.
No, I kind of want to
but
go. I want to even
yeah.
unpack it even more because, I mean, if it's not too traumatic, I mean, like,
I'm proud of it.
yeah, I would be too. I mean, first off, not a lot of people get a reset like that, right? Like that's, I don't know if I don't think you've ever told me this.
Haven't I told you that? No.
No, and I'm just like a bit shocked. It's like, what?
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess all the scarring's disappeared. I had a big hole here for the trachea. That's all pretty much covered up now.
Yeah.
I had 48 staples holding my head together.
I mean, props to the doctors
Yeah.
that like put you back together. Really.
Yeah.
Maybe. Do you think that like when you were in that lucid state, um, you know, you were sort of you could see some things, but then your brain's perception of it was just too twisted because obviously, head trauma concussion can,
Mm. Yeah, no, I totally think that's what it is.
Yeah.
And my mind was just twisting it around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your circuits, you short circuited
Yeah.
essentially,
That's
just,
it.
just
Yeah,
it wouldn't go back.
Yeah. But hey, it is what it is.
Yeah.
It happened. I'm glad it happened.
Yeah, you wouldn't be on this trajectory and journey of life.
That's it. I could have been stuck in Ballarat doing a job I didn't like,
Yeah.
as opposed to,
You'd be in a square.
yeah, where now I'm doing what I want. I'm in charge of my destiny.
Your life and
Yeah.
yeah. Man,
Mm.
when you said you died, right? Like, was that a DMT moment for you, or do you remember that? That like,
Nah.
no, that would have been like,
I don't remember anything. I think there was like 2 or 3 weeks before the event. Oh, sorry, for the event, the accident.
Yeah.
That I don't remember, and then obviously everything post that up
Mm.
until a couple of months later, I have
Yeah.
no recollection of it all. There was an example of that. There was a movie apparently that I watched a few days before the accident, and then after the accident, after rehab, I watched the movie with my girlfriend at the time, and yeah, I was like, that was such a great movie. It was so good. She's like, you've seen it before. I'm like, I've never seen this in my life. She's like, no, we watched this like a week before your accident.
So there was memory loss in a sense.
Complete memory loss.
Yeah. How does that fare for you now? I mean,
it's fine now. Like, don't get me wrong. As part of the whole rehab thing, there was a lot of short-term memory issues, and I'd just write everything down. But now, now I'm back to normal, and I'm better. I'm a fitter, stronger, more switched on machine now than I ever have been because of the accident.
Yeah.
So
would you have learned things in your sort of rehab as well that you sort of apply to yourself, or no? That was just a lot of physio and a lot of,
yeah, I think it was I guess the rehab part of it was really just getting my body back to normal and learning, speech
again.
Yeah, and things like that. So I think I wasn't anything, earth shattering that I have taken away from the rehab side of it. But I think the one thing I'd have taken away from the whole experience was the time I got to spend with myself and the realizations that came out of it. So that's the most thing, because out of the whole thing, my brain didn't stop. Like I was still questioning things today, like I was 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Like it was just really my body didn't want to play ball.
Yeah.
So,
man, what a story.
Yeah.
If that doesn't give you drive, I don't know. I don't know what else will.
No, it was good. Like I don't think I'd even been overseas before that.
Yeah.
And now I've been to
17 countries.
Oh no, I've been to.
You've been to more.
I think I've
That's
been,
just the gigs.
Yeah, I've been to 40 countries or something like that.
Wow.
But yeah, but gigs in 17 of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just an excuse. It's just a reason to go out.
But it's like, how much of that just like stays in the back of your mind that you go, I died, I died, and this is, like, is that a constant reminder for you to just live your life to the sort of fullest,
Yeah, no, totally. Like
don't take life for granted.
Yeah, like sometimes I forget. Don't get me wrong, and then I don't know.
When shit gets tough a bit. Like,
yeah, and shit's just the same, and it's just all a bit boring. And then I don't know. I'll look in the mirror or something, and I'll see the scar, and I'm like, oh, hang on, that happened. Yeah, or a good example is I'll be driving somewhere and I'll be a little bit reckless on the road because I'm running late or something, and then I'll get home and go, hang on, Matt, remember what happened last time you did that?
Yeah.
Sharpen up, things like that. But it's good.
Man, the other interesting thing about all that is you still love cars.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'm a Bergen from way back.
But man, I want to talk to you about that actually, because look, I don't know much about the mechanical side of cars, right? But I like cars, and I
Mm,
like old muscle cars and old Cadillac Eldorados
mm.
and hot rods and a bunch of things like that. You own how many cars do you own?
A few.
N- You know,
It's
uh,
like it's like five or something.
yeah, yeah. How many of them are classics?
A couple.
A couple.
Yeah, a couple. Like I've got a couple of projects on the go at the moment, and
Are you doing them yourself?
no, no, I'm paying people lots of money to do it for me.
Yeah.
But the problem is, it takes a long time.
Is it because you're finding the parts for the cars and stuff like that? Is
No,
it?
no. I generally find the parts, and then I'll go, here's all the parts. You put it together.
Mm,
But it's because of you need to get everything engineered. Like I'm not a qualified mechanic,
yeah.
so if I did do it myself, I still can't drive it on the road because it's not engineered.
Yeah. Are you saying that they need to sort of machine parts that out of existence in a sense?
Also, they just have to certify that the changes I'm making to that vehicle
Mm,
are road legal. They,
yeah.
they they meet the standards that are safe.
Yeah. Are they resto mods?
Yeah,
Restoration modifications
yeah.
usually? So you sort of modernize the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's basically a new car in an old shell.
Yeah.
So it's got the luxuries and standards of now. So like a nice comfy ride with a big tough motor
Yeah.
like now, but in an old '60s car.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So when did this affinity for cars? I don't know if the word is affinity.
yeah,
Affinity, right?
yeah, yeah.
Right.
That
Yeah,
works.
it works.
Yeah.
When did this start? Like when did your like passion for it?
I don't know. I've always liked cars.
Like as a
You know.
kid, did you used to play
Yeah,
with like toy trucks and
possibly.
possibly
Yeah, possibly. But no, I've had lots of cars. I used to have a really bad habit of just buying a new car every year.
every year,
Yeah.
but like a brand new, not a brand
No,
new
no,
one.
no,
Yeah,
no.
yeah,
I never buy brand new ones. But
yeah.
it was just because I liked. I don't know. I get bored. I'd go through, get a few Commodores or a little couple of Ricer,
Mm,
sporty cars, and then go to an old one, and I just get bored, and I just like change.
yeah,
And then I sort of realized, hang on, maybe you are a bit of a collector, like,
yeah.
and there's nothing wrong with that, you
No,
know.
yeah,
And it's just like, yeah, okay, well, if I look at it that way, I'm a collector,
yeah,
not just someone who's just car mad.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Car maniac.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't know, it's just good, and I don't know, it's almost like an investment that pays off. Like, because traditionally old cars aren't going to go down; they go up, like in price.
Oh yeah, yeah,
So it's a slow investment.
yeah. Is that? But
Yeah.
that's not the reason why you're doing it as an
No,
investment
I
thing.
just do it because I like it. I
Yeah.
like old steel, and I like the fact that you can build a car yourself, essentially.
Mm, mm, mm,
And
mm.
I know it's just it's a whole community.
Yeah.
Like, let's
Like you take it to car shows and stuff like that.
yeah, like okay, let's look at the Duff community.
Hmm.
You've got Duff community, you've got markets, you've got good food places, you've got good music, things like that. The car scene's got the exact same thing.
Hmm.
Like, you look at events like Chopped or Boogaloo. Okay, same sort of thing, but they're all about having cars that do dirt drags. You still have all these big rock bands.
Yeah.
Like you'll have, Cosmic Psychos will play and things like that, and you'll have good bands, amazing food.
Mm.
They even have like DJs,
Yeah.
and things like that. Um, it's the same sort of community. It's just a different style of music,
Mm.
and it's just it's the same. It's
Yeah.
just a different end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
And because I've been in the doof scene for so long, it's no different.
Yeah. It's just more refreshing
Yeah.
sometimes, it's a different
Well,
yeah.
and it brings out the olders, the old timers, and all that kind of stuff, and you have a chat to them and take knowledge from them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You go, oh yeah,
Interesting stories,
yeah,
interesting cars and stuff like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
Man, I want to go with you, man.
yeah, man. As soon as they let us,
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
doing it. Like,
you gotta let me know because I'm like
yeah,
I grew up, first watching things like Pimp My Ride,
yeah,
MTV, which, for a 15-year-old, it's like that
mm,
was the shit, It was the first time you'd be able to see custom,
yeah, yeah,
and then, you grow up, there's more car shows and stuff like that. And I've always wanted to own, an old classic, something like that.
Yep.
But I never liked like, well, no, no, never liked, not that I've tried, but like a resto mod, was always something that I would have gone, no, how can you get something that's old but put modern technology in
Yeah,
it?
yeah. It's quite expensive. But yeah, man. No, I definitely you don't recognize it, but there's so many people in the Doof community that are into cars. Like
Oh yeah, yeah.
other DJs that have
The
got
doof wagons.
their own Doof wagons and things like that. And there's a lot of artists, like DJs and artists, that have hot rods and stuff. So it's just a matter of getting the collective together and let's just migrate to this next event.
Yeah,
Um,
here's an idea for another
yeah,
event.
yeah.
This is
No, but definitely, man. Like I remember from last time we had this discussion. I'm like, okay, the next time they're on, you're coming.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
I would have like a
Yeah.
fucking. It would be for me. It would be like, oh, I'm in heaven. Look at
Yeah.
all these cars. Ah,
yeah,
yeah.
and it's like I said, it's the same as a doof, but it's just different. So
Mm.
it's like you can go to this doof and not feel
Alienated.
not feel alienated and not feel like you've got any responsibility.
Mm,
You don't have to think, oh, I'm about to DJ, because you're not.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
You don't have to worry about things like that.
yeah.
But yeah, hope fingers crossed. There's a big event coming up. It's not a festival styled one, but it's just a actual car show called MotorX that happens every year. They get, I don't know, 3,000 or 4,000 cars go to it.
Wow.
It's out at the showgrounds. The next one is Old Earth Core weekend, November 24th, 25th.
Yeah.
So assuming we can get people, assuming the government lets us go to that,
Yeah. Yeah.
by all means,
Wonder how they'll manage that.
you'll be invited to that, don't you worry.
Are the ticket prices expensive? Like, what do they charge for? Like,
It's like $20,
What?
$30, yeah.
but then a lot of people do go to them, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's got bands playing all day, heaps of sheds, heaps of food places. It's got like a drift circuit.
Oh,
It's
nice.
got
Yeah.
skid competitions and all. It's
And-
basically like summer nats, but stripped down to one day here in Melbourne.
Mm.
Yeah.
For a very pretty affordable price to just see something that would have been
Yeah.
illegal.
Yeah.
Growing up, was there any sort of? Were you ever involved in like any sort of illegal street races, or got
Yeah.
to see a bunch of those? Like,
Yeah, of
you
course.
were they ever drama? As dramatic as like
Yeah.
Fast and the Furious?
Yeah, well, not too long before my car accident, because I had a crazy turboed car. I had a Honda CRX, which that I'd bought, which is an old tiny Japanese car.
Yeah.
It'd been turboed up. I'd done some work to it, and it was ridiculous. It was running, like it was doing 10-second quarters when I bought it. I did some mods to it, so it would have been doing, say, 9.5 seconds, low nines.
Phew.
But I didn't get a chance to race it
Yeah.
officially before the accident.
Yeah.
But in testing, of course I did.
Yeah.
And there was a good spot in Ballarat that everyone goes to. Basically every Friday night there was a big collection. It was great, and we do that all the time.
Yeah. Someone was organizing this like on the down low, saying, "Hey, we're gonna get to." Were they more like drag races or?
Yeah, just full drag races. Cops would break it up every time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was great. It was kind of like the Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift kind of thing, where everyone just rocks up at the same spot.
Yeah, and there's people, bystanders, just on the streets and stuff like that, watching the races, kind of thing. Yeah.
But it kind of lost it. Like the cops knew what was going on, and they said it didn't last long.
Yeah. And now the cops patrol the streets a lot. And back then they wouldn't have patrolled. There were less cops. I'm guessing. Yeah.
Well, back when that was happening, there was two different spots. There was this drag strip which was up in the industrial zone, and then there was the shopping centre car park. And the shopping centre car park would, no kidding, have, I don't know, every night 200-300 cars.
Yeah.
And people would just be there, just like walking around like a car show. What's in yours?
Yeah.
And it was great. And then, the Popo come and wrecked all that for us. Yeah.
I mean, talk about this like underground vibe. I mean, you would have been there sort of around the whole. I mean, the warehouse scene in Melbourne was like what? That would have been the 90s, right? Or would it have dragged on to the early 2000s?
It was late 90s, early 2000s. Like I was lucky that I'm close with the guys that run, say, techno militia parties.
Yeah.
they're the perfect ambassadors for
Were they the sort of
warehouse.
originators, some of the originators?
I wouldn't say originators, but they kept the dream going.
Yeah.
There was heaps of other little crews like Yeah Fuck Yeah and things like that.
Yeah.
They'd have all these warehouse parties and they'd be great. Might only have 100 people, might have 300. It was perfect.
Yeah.
It was great.
How do you feel like they compare to sort of, bush dust? Because I always used to say it seems like the warehouse scene, like say things like Every Picture Tells a Story, or that ran for a while. I managed to go to the last one, and I didn't even know what it was until, I was living in Docklands, and it's like, oh, it's happening literally just in Shed 4 before it got all vamped up and stuff, right? Did you see this, the crowd transitioning from that into doofs, or were they always interchangeable? Like people from this always just used to, you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, and it was, like a lot of, like when I was in the Melbourne scene a little bit earlier, I was going to parties, like Elevation and things like that. And they were like Hard House and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then you go to these warehouse parties and they were just like nice underground techno, but then some would be like Dirty House, and it was just like a big mix of everything.
Yeah.
And then you get little parties like Every Picture Tells a Story and all that kind of stuff. And then they'd help blend them all together.
Yeah.
And then when I started going to the doofs, I'd start seeing familiar faces. But some of these doofs had a whole lot of old timers as well,
Yeah.
which are really good. Like the old timers were the ones that sort of shaped us into, what we should and shouldn't be doing.
Yeah.
So we wouldn't be so loose.
Yeah.
And that was really good. But I don't know, like I started going to Rainbows and Earth Cores, back in like 2003 or whatever, and it was like when you've been to so many of them all, you see the transitions.
Yeah.
And you can put the correlation down to what other big parties stopped.
Yeah.
Like when you get, like when the future entertainment parties, when they all ceased, for example, like Stereosonics and all that kind of stuff, when they all stopped.
Yeah.
Those same people had to go somewhere to party.
The mega commercial scene. Yeah.
Yep. So it was like, where do they go? And they just trickled down into the doofs.
Yeah.
Which is the result of what we're seeing now.
Yeah. There's a lot of glam now and stuff like that.
A lot of glam.
And it's strange because it's not part of the culture in a sense, but now it is becoming it.
It's become the culture now. Like, and it's not doesn't just happen here. Like all around the world, it's the same.
Yeah.
So it's almost just like the evolution. We can't just sit there and go, well, this is.
We don't accept you.
Yeah, we don't accept you or whatever, because that's what we're used to. We need to evolve with it as well.
Yeah.
But we just got to make sure that we need to give these new kids guidance like the old timers gave us when we started.
Yeah, because you're the old timers.
That's right. Now we're the OGs.
Yeah.
For the new kids, but it is what it is.
And then there's this, this transference of the ethos is like passed down. This is, hey, that's not what it's about. Sure, you want to be half naked, cool. Yeah, but listen, this is
take your tent home with you. don't just leave it here. Yeah.
This is like the community aspect of it is again talking about all those cars and stuff like that. Is the main thing is we're a community. Music is the thread that weaves us together, but this is the culture, this is the music, and we're all about inclusion.
It's modern day Woodstock.
Yeah, I used to call this we're the bastard children of Woodstock.
Yeah, and that's there's nothing wrong with that. Like what happened in the 60s or whatever, and it's great. All that free love has just continued to trickle down, because it's good. It's shaping us into being not so blinded and not having blinkers on that we only think one way.
Yeah. So. Isn't it interesting that like now all over the world I see that this, obviously here in Australia our doofs are very psytrance oriented. In Europe probably the same for the doofs, but in America there's a lot of bass music, there's a lot of that Burning Man or burner culture.
Yeah.
And all over the world, for me it seems like our modern day people, this is becoming like not necessarily pop culture, but it's just becoming like a normal thing, which for me is cool, because it's like people can relate to the crazy now. Like I can be crazy. I can,
Yeah.
crazy just means basically I'm expressing myself the way that I fucking want to, you know, and I don't give a shit what you think about me.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's becoming like a, you know, it's more normal and it's cool. You know, this is like this, it's trickling into society.
Oh, it is, man. Like, it was one of those things like, I don't know, people were always against it because it was so rife in drug use. Doesn't mean it was, but the media made it out to be that way.
Yeah, yeah.
And then, you know, that's just how it was. We were always the black sheep.
Yeah.
But now it's a bit more acceptable. People are a bit more rebellious again. You know, it's good. And even like there was a really recent show on Netflix. I can't remember what it's called, but it was essentially about all the stars using psychedelics.
Oh yeah, we literally, I think we talked about that. Yeah, what was it called? I think my cameraman Blaney was talking about it yesterday. Have a good trip.
Was it that one? Yeah.
Yeah. We're looking at it.
Yeah.
We're like, have a good trip.
And
Yeah,
it was great because it got all these stars to come down and, you know, like Ben Stiller and all these big acts,
Ben Stiller. Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
talking about when they've done acid and psychedelics and all that kind of stuff. But they've painted it in a good picture.
Yeah,
Like they're not saying this is all bad, this is bad. They've painted it as in this has enabled me to do this creative form of art or something.
Yeah, expression.
Yeah, and it's because they're advising they're not saying it's okay by any means, but they're
they're treading on, like, you know, they're
They are.
treading lightly because they don't want to, you know, they are, you know, a great celebrity. Like Ben Stiller is like, you know, all over the world. He's like
100%.
You know,
but it's good that they're doing it because it also helps cement into the idea of the people that have been non-believers that there's possibly room for this in some form or another.
Yeah.
Whether it's, you know, for medical treatment or whatever, you know, it's, I think, I don't know, give it another 20 years and everything's going to be a lot different.
Yeah. You're gonna be able to buy, you know, low dose mushroom caps and
not so much of that.
Not so much of that.
But
Dream.
I think things will be a lot more accepted, you know, like,
yeah, of course.
in general, like, it'll come down to like our generation are going to be the ones in charge, so to speak, as opposed to at the moment, it's still very much our parents that are in charge of politics and everything else. So they're obviously stuck in their mindsets from what they've known all their life.
Yeah.
Give it another, say, 20 years, and it's going to be us that are going to be in their positions. And we've had a more opened upbringing and things like that. So we're going to be a bit more tolerant and open to these kind of ideas.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
And that goes back to this like level of conservatism. We the previous guest, Bo Kitty, we talked about this. I don't know how to describe, to give it an adjective, but this conservatism in Australia that's like kind of is killing art or is trying to like bleed, you know, it's bleeding us, you know. It's like a hemorrhage. Is a hemorrhage? Yeah. Yeah, it's hemorrhaging blood, I guess, from our scene, and it's cutting our. I feel like, you know, it's cutting our limbs off or taking the rug, you know.
Yeah, it's a funny one at the moment. You know, like prior to COVID, you know, there was still a lot of rules in things that you could and couldn't do.
Yeah. And now it's like
it's very like we're not communist by any means, but it's, you know,
we're on the border.
But we're on the border of what we can and can't do. You know, like we're going to have a lot more military presence now and things like that, and it is what it is.
Yeah.
We just got to evolve with it. I don't think it's going to last, as in like not COVID. I mean, like just the immense pressure and everything else is
the presence. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it'll alleviate somewhat.
Do you think that it will remain? Do you feel like though this tight control might actually linger on because now they've got, well, you know, we've got what we wanted, in a sense. Not that, you know, I know it's the control is there for you know, to control the virus, the transmission and the spread. You know, I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist. I don't want to buy into that
This
garbage.
isn't a COVID conversation. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, there's, I think there's going to be good and bad things that come out of it. You know, like you said, there's going to be that control that they're not going to want to give up. But at the same time, I think there's going to be a lot more freedom that's coming
Yeah.
from this. You know, like a lot of workplaces have always been, you've got to be in the office, you've got to do this, you've got to be here at 9 o'clock on the dot, blah, 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 blah. Now they're like, hang on, we've just proven that you can work from home.
Yeah.
You can work from anywhere around the world. We've
Yeah.
just proven that.
Yeah.
Why do we need to have an office?
And then that'll make them realize, well, that means we can cut our rent. We
Yeah.
can cut all these like administrative costs and the building and the stuff and the insurance and the cleaners.
And
That's a great point, by the way.
And that's what it is. Like one of my close friends, his company realized this about 3 or 4 years ago. They had a big office in Burke Street.
Yeah.
And then they just went,
expensive rent.
yeah, they went, yeah, let's have it. Everyone just works from home.
Yeah.
And the company just did that. Like they had, I'm not sure how many they had, probably like 100 people or something.
Yeah. What did they do? What kind of
that was more like civil design-ish kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And upgrading, you know, utility drawings and things like that.
infrastructure?
Yeah. And that they all just went, okay, you're going to work from home from now on. And they saved heaps of money on rent. Everyone got to work from home, and it was really nice.
Probably productivity increased, didn't it? Who knows?
Possibly.
Possibly, yeah.
Well, I know for me, for my day job now, my company did the same thing. I'm working from home, have been since March.
Yeah.
I'm working much longer hours now because I'm at home. It's harder because traditionally you're in the office. When you leave the office, you switch off because you're leaving the office and you're getting on public transport. It's easier to have the divide and the separation.
Yeah.
Now I'm working from home. You know, I get up at whatever time, 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock or whatever, turn on the computer, and before you realize it, it's 8 o'clock at night. And you're like, oh, I've been working for 12 hours. Damn it. And you just don't realize because it's familiar and there's no switch off.
Yeah. Do you see that as a bad thing? Like, because that kind of, you know, you don't want to be working those large amounts of hours, especially on a computer, you know?
Yeah.
I think the beauty of like, you know, not, unlike producing music, right? Where there's no, you have to put a wedge, not a wedgie, you have to like, cool, it's been 6-7 hours, my back is killing me, my wrists, you know, I've been on the computer. Are you able to find that separation? Do you feel like that's affected you negatively, or are you trying to find balance?
Yeah, you sort of make a balance, like or try to make a balance, and that you try and make yourself go out at lunch. You know, make sure you go for a walk at lunchtime. You know, set aside an hour for lunch or something. You know, try and pack up. You know, like you normally would. You know, try and do some task that you can have in your head as this is my switch off switch, my turn off switch.
Yeah.
But it's hard sometimes. Like working for a global company, I get asked to do meetings at weird times.
2 in the morning kind of thing.
Yeah, not so much 2 in the morning, but sometimes I'll be like 10 at night or whatever, or 6 in the morning. And so it's hard to have that divide sometimes. But I think you just got to look after yourself and know what is too much and what isn't.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm a hard worker. I don't mind working 10 hours a day or whatever. Like if the work's there and has to be done, I don't mind doing it.
That's your default in a sense. Yeah.
But if it's consistent, I know I'm going to burn out.
Yeah.
So you just got to make time to have that non-worked space.
Yeah. And have you managed to balance that with music? I mean, are you writing more now? Are you sort of doing more creative stuff at home with your own with your own productions?
Yeah, well, because of I guess the whole COVID nature of things at the moment, you can't really go out and do much. So I'm just, you know, work is work. After work, it's pretty much what can I do? It's music or Netflix.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not a big Netflixer. I don't get me wrong. I like to end the day with a bit of Netflixing, but but that isn't what I'm going to do for pleasure after work. So it's just going to be music in some form or another.
Whether it's writing it or listening to it.
Yeah, it's either writing it or sourcing it or you know, things like that.
And there's still work that you do, obviously, with the labels and you know the heavy involvement of that.
Yeah, definitely. But I am writing again. So it's good.
That's like one thing that I do know sort of about you is because I know how jam packed your schedule is. You can produce, but much like myself, it's like you don't produce as often, and so there's not as many releases. There's a VA compilation here and there, and
Yeah.
But are you excited about that? I mean, like that, I would be fucking over the roof because I'm like, yes, finally I can maybe write something conceptual.
Yeah. I'm back in the zone. I haven't put in as much time into it as I'd like, but I know I can.
Yeah.
You know, and that's just, I know there's a couple of things I'm doing at the moment. Like I'm trying to get onto a couple of techno labels over in Europe at the moment.
Yeah. Can you name a few? Is that a secret?
It's I'll keep that to myself for now until they come back and say yes or no, because I don't want to just basically said no, and then I'm on a TV show now saying I got rejected. But no, there's a few really good ones I'm in discussions with, so hopefully that works out. And after all that's sorted out, and I've got a couple of podcasts that are coming out on different outlets, you know, one Australian one and a couple, one in Europe and one in Brazil.
And when you say podcast, is it like a format discussion like we're having right now? Is it more so?
No, just mixes essentially.
Yeah, that confuses me sometimes, you know, because I'm like, why don't you just call it a mix?
Call it a mix, yeah.
Don't call it a podcast. But then people are like, well, podcast can be anything. I'm like, no, it cannot. It has to be a format.
Yeah, no, agreed. I guess they call them podcasts, but they might say hello at the start and thank you at the end.
Yeah.
But the rest of it's just a mix.
I mean, that's just my opinion, by the way. You know?
Yeah, no. It's fair. But yeah, after all that's done, it's straight into the writing again. Like I know what I need to do. I know how to do it.
Yeah.
It's just now I've got the time to do it.
How long have you been writing music and all of this like rich tapestry of, you know, work you've done? Like when did that start for you?
Steve Black. Steve commonly known as Steve Ward now. He taught me how to use Ableton.
You did his course, or did you just seeked him out one-on-one?
This is at Base Station.
Whoa, is that how far back Steve Ward goes?
Yeah. Well, he was Steve Black back then.
What was he playing?
Hard trance and a bit of techno.
Are you joking?
I
got to get him on board.
But it was, and back then it was typical Base Station kind of stuff. And then there was a couple of us that he held a bit of a session with, you know, and we did that. And that got me into it.
And was that Ableton back then?
Yep, Ableton. And it was good. It was the door, essentially. I didn't do much of it, you know, after that. But it taught me what I needed to know. And then I just gradually learned more and more through different people.
Yeah.
You know, like I'll come to your house and then you'll go, check this out. I'll go, oh, how'd you do that? And then you'll show me some certain parameters in some VST and I'll go, that's how you do it. You put that little, you know, and that's all it is. It's just a matter of surrounding yourself with good artists.
Yeah, which is what we, you know.
Yeah. And that's it. And you just learn bits and pieces from each other. You share VSTs and someone will go, oh, have you used the new, you know, X VST? It does this and that. And then you go home and buy it or
test it out, trial it out. Yeah.
And then you go, oh, this opens up a whole new plethora of sounds I can make.
Yeah.
You know, and it's good.
So, I mean, are we expecting, you know, is there a specific genre that you're going to write more techno now that you have this time, or more of the Xenon's side, or?
Yeah, well, it'll be a bit of both. Like, I've been telling Sensient for years and years and years that I'll have an EP for him, and it just never happens. And that's my fault. That's not by any means his fault or anything.
Of course,
it's my fault because of my schedule with gigs and touring and work and all the rest, that I haven't put enough effort into it. I want to put the effort into it.
Yeah.
Also with the techno stuff, I want to do that. So probably what I'll be doing is one of each. They'll be leveraging off each other.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. Like, you know, like what I do give Sensient will probably be a bit more techy than squelchy, but it'll still be Xenon.
Yeah.
Like it's not going to be.
The BPMs might be a bit faster or something like that. Or whatever it is.
Yeah, it is what it is. Like it won't be hi-hat driven techno. It'll still be dark prog.
Yeah.
But it'll have the techno, you know, framing and everything else as well.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens, you know. You know what it's like. You have a plan to do one thing. And then all of a sudden, by the end of it, it's completely different.
Dude, I'm writing hip hop right now. Oh, like hip hoppy, trip hoppy stuff.
Nice.
I mean, that's I've always been secretly in love with that genre.
It's an awesome genre.
Yeah, and I'm just like, well, that's the genre that you can actually rap on and sing.
Yeah.
You know, not necessarily hip hop, more so trip hop. You know,
Mm.
but it's still, you know, it's trippy, it's psychedelic, it's electronic. It's
Yeah.
well, man, you got a few metal influences. You've got a Lamb of God. I know you. You know, you're a rocker at heart.
Yeah.
You're a Tool fan.
Yeah, all of that. It's but it's the same as a lot of people in the
In the
the
psytrance
in the
scene, yeah.
psytrance industry. They all came from metal somewhere, but it's it's got its place in my heart. Probably don't listen to it anywhere near as much as I used to,
Yeah,
but it's got something.
yeah, and again, like say with bands like say Pink Floyd or Tool,
Mm.
so much, you know, like first off, like Alex Gray,
Mm.
you know, is a big sort of figure in our psychedelic, in the cultural side of the psychedelic scene. You know, there's so many drawing influences of that music and cross collaboration that you see trickle. Well, not trickle, but purely just inspiring psytrance producers because we're the the evolution again, like how we might have been, the culture might have been from Woodstock. You know, this is also taking so much from the atmospheric sense of, with bands like, Kaya Project and Spongles and stuff like that. You can see clear influences,
Yeah.
Osric Tentacles and stuff like that.
Oh yeah. I had one moment. I played the 2012 Eclipse Festival up in Cairns.
I was there. Life changing.
Yeah, that was great. And then afterwards, we went to a hotel just before we got on the plane to go back, and I got to share breakfast with Alex and Alison Gray.
Wow!
But I was so starstruck, I didn't say a word. I literally sat next to him while someone else was just chatting their ear off, and I was like, "Yep, not going to say a word, but love you guys." Yeah.
Well, man, it's been wonderful chatting to you about the history of you and your influences, and thank you for sharing your accident story. I don't know if that was difficult or not, but
no, not difficult at all.
I'm grateful that you did, because that's the kind of stuff that the gold, I guess, that
you just want to make people cry, don't you?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. But no, it's we've managed to capture like an element of realness, and we keep it surreal here. We keep it real.
Yeah.
Is there anything, obviously you've said you're gonna try and release like a techno and a Xenon EP. Is there anything that you have on the horizon? You've just played at the digital festival.
Yeah, the Half Wild one. That was good.
Half Wild one. Is there any footage that we can sort of go back and see, or is it just like that's it? It's gone. It was live.
Yeah, I think it was live. I'm not sure whether they're going to release them again.
Yeah, were they recorded?
I believe so.
Yeah.
So maybe they will be releasing them in due time, but I guess they want to be respectful to the people that paid to see it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay. I guess it's exclusive in a sense. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's see what happens.
Yeah.
But outside of that, no, there's nothing on the horizon at the moment. Like there's a couple of festivals happening in Queensland.
Elements.
Elements, Mushroom Valley, and Earth Freak. I'm in constant contact with these guys. So.
Yeah, you work a lot with Paul as well, Paul Abad, and touring.
Yep. So let's see what happens with those. It's all a bit funny. We don't know if we're even allowed to leave the state, let alone go to DUFs. So let's see what the government allows us to do. But there's certainly possibilities.
Yeah.
There's things on the horizon anyway. It's just a matter of whether we're allowed to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope so, man. I don't want to say, but I've been booked for one of those said festivals, and I'm really excited. And I'm just like, God, I really hope we can.
Yeah.
Because I need that. Like,
yeah, I'm the same. I've been booked as well. I won't say which because
we
haven't released anything, but
yeah.
But yeah, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
They're all great festivals, and if they can do it, hopefully that can be a good example for the other states.
Yeah.
That they start lessening rules and things like that.
But
yeah. But no, man, it's been wonderful. Thank you so much for having me on. It's
You're now allowed to to veer off the microphone.
Yeah. No, it's been really good. Big ups to you for
Thank you.
for hosting these events. It's a really good platform for obviously to showcase different people and different opinions and everything else. But it's good, for us to interact more with you.
Yeah,
You
thank you.
you're a s- you're a silent bystander that's in the scene everywhere.
Yeah, yeah.
And you need to be heard more as well.
Thank you, thank you. I feel like for myself, I would love to play a lot more gigs, but I really struggle with the like you said, you've got to do a lot of work and promoting and putting lots of mixes and stuff. Like, not that I don't want to do the work, but I'm just like, there's so many other interests of mine that I'm
Yeah.
constantly, in flux with. And, I'm glad that you're one of those people that's like, he recognized me and he recognizes that. And, this is, again, this is the evolution of, of being that silent bystander. And sometimes I think I'm like, am I just going to keep interviewing my friends? Because obviously we're good friends and collaborators, but it's like, do I have enough people to talk about? And then I'm like, oh yeah, hang on a second.
I know everyone.
Yeah, well, I'm like, not
Yeah.
everyone, but, say like someone like Loki. It's like, cool, we're going to interview Loki. But hang on a second, Loki's got a label. Hang on a second, there's like 40 guys on that label. Oh, I guess we're going to have to interview every...
Man, and that's it, and this is where it comes in as well. Like if I've got international artists that are around, like
Yeah, and please bring him if
But
that's
the-
what you aim.
yeah.
You
Well,
know?
that's the thing. Like if I've got Hypergeo down here or something like that, I'm gonna go, all right, you want to do an interview?
Yeah, yeah.
And that's where having a good friendship like this, it works for both of us.
Yeah, yeah.
Like it gives you, you know, new people to discuss new issues with, and it gives me a platform to share new people with, and
Absolutely. Yeah.
it's great.
I look
So,
forward to it, man. I look
yeah.
forward to, us expanding this horizon and bringing in all these people in. Thank you so much, my man. Check it out. Check Maddie out on SoundCloud as Azrin, Xaphan. Any websites in the works?
Not really. Like just I guess go to Red Forest
Red Forest Productions.
.net.au.
Yeah.
And that's for our Where the Wild Things Are festival.
Yeah.
We'll update that soon.
We'll update that soon. And just for, all you cool cats out there who don't know this, Maddie is a very exceptional graphic designer who I'm like secretly always want him to do my flyers, but he only does them for himself.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, oh, God damn it, now I got to learn. But I'm like, but you are...
Learning's good.
Learning's good, but I have to say this, man, you are pretty good. I don't say that about a lot of graphic designs.
Thank you.
Good designers out there. I just don't like... I'm particular with what I like, and I like everything that you make. And just a secret another little word of praise here. While I shower you and kiss your ass.
Yeah, I have a bit of help from others, so as well.
We didn't talk about it much, but we can talk about it next time.
But no, thank you.
Yeah, my man. Good to have you, my man. Let's do this one more time. Woo! All right, ladies and gentlemen, Surreal Melbourne episode. Is this episode